You have been completely open and honest with your boss about your career goals. You took all their feedback, you implemented it, and you communicated back with them everything that you've been doing to become the person you needed to be in that next role. Now, all there's left for you to do is watch your email and wait for that meeting where they tell you the official offer. You are certain that you're a shoo-in because of all of the work you've done up to this point. And then suddenly you get the email, but your heart sinks because it's not the one asking you to come in and claim that official offer handed to you. It's the email announcing that Chad got the role that you had been hoping and praying for so long. How could it be? You did everything right. Why aren't you the one getting promoted? Now, unfortunately, friend, I know this story well because I've heard it from many of my clients and from myself. The only thing worse than not getting that job, from finding out through an email that it went to somebody else, is getting the feedback afterwards that you need to just keep doing what you're doing. You need to just wait your turn. And that fear of it never happening from you, that frustration of it going to someone else that you think you're more qualified than, it can run so high that suddenly actually getting promoted feels as out of reach as swimming across Lake Michigan. You create all sorts of stories and assumptions about why you weren't the right fit. Maybe you didn't rub elbows quite the right way. Maybe you were too good in the role that you're in for them to let you go. Maybe you just weren't willing to make the sacrifices and give up your boundaries for the job. Now, some of those reasons in your head even get backed up by leadership, but I am here to tell you that what you think is holding you back probably isn't it. And better yet, there is something that you can do about it. Now, it is incredibly tempting in those tough situations where you didn't get your dream job, or worse yet, you didn't get the job that you thought was just a stepping stone that you were even overqualified for. Now, we like to blame someone else in those situations. It can't be us. It had to have been that Chad was doing something sneaky or underhanded. If it went to Stacy, it had to be that she put on too short of a skirt, and that's the reason she got the job that we should have gotten. We get resentful. We get to feeling like we don't have any control. And so we retreat into this gross version of us that isn't helping anyone. Now, for better or worse, there's actually a name for that. It's called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness was identified back in the 60s, and it had to do with dogs. So these two scientists put dogs on mats in crates. Crates had different sizes. If the dog was on the mat, they could send an electrical current to the mat that would give the dog just a little bit of a shock, just something to be uncomfortable, not anything that was actually going to hurt them. Now, in a big crate, the dog would feel the shock in his feet and jump off to an area that didn't have the mat and be safe, right? He would learn that he could do something about the pain. Now, in the smaller crates, the dogs couldn't jump off. So they would feel the electrical current in their feet, and that would be uncomfortable. They'd realize that there was nothing that they could do about it, and they would eventually just lay down. They would rather feel that uncomfortableness, that pain everywhere, than go through the mental pain of trying to figure out what to do when there wasn't anything to do. Worse yet, when they got into a bigger crate, those dogs that had learned that they couldn't do anything about the electrical current, they couldn't do anything about that pain in their feet and then all over their bodies when they laid down, even in the bigger crate where there was more room, another option, they still just laid down on their mats. The dogs learned to be helpless because there was nothing they could do. And when you decide that you have no control over your career, you stop trying too. You make the situation worse by lying down on the job because you don't see any way to avoid that pain. But you, my friend, you can get off the mat. You can refocus on what you can control when you translate those helpless stories into something that you can do something about so that you can jump into action. All right, so what are those stories that are holding you back? Clients and prospects come to me all the time looking to take that next step into their career. And they usually have some variation of one of these three stories they're telling themselves. The first one is I don't have the right degree or certification or designation, maybe. Now, look, I have worked with a lot of people in a lot of industries, and rarely is your level of education an actual barrier to the job that you want. Now, you might want to be a doctor, and in which case you are going to need to go to medical school. You might be a master electrician or want to be a master electrician, and you're going to need to do an apprenticeship. So, those situations do exist. But that being said, if you want to be a controller, if you want to be a director of operations, customer service supervisor, or even a chief sales officer, and so many more, it is not your education that is holding you back. Education will never replace application. And that means you can get the job you want with or without those letters after your name. You can apply what you've learned from making, say, 1,000 sales calls to inspire whole teams to try your approach. And the results that you help others achieve will advance you beyond any designation, beyond any LMNOP behind your name. All right, number two, people say, I am too good at what I do now to do anything else. I will admit that people can put your talents and your skills in a box. It does happen. They see your technical skills as a reason to keep you where you are. Sometimes it's because they know that they're going to fail without you. Other times it's because they just can't imagine you doing anything else. First of all, kudos to you. Honestly, kudos to you for being this indispensable in your work. It takes talent, it takes skill, it takes dedication to get to the point that people feel like they would be lost without you. That's great. I'm very proud of you. Let's not live here, right? Let's leverage that amazing work that you've done to advance you, not to pigeonhole you. Being too good can become golden handcuffs, but only when you let it. You have this control, right? It's time to pick up your head from whatever it is, the hard work that you've been doing, to advance other people's skills and build a new skill set in the process. All right, number three, I'm just not a political brown noser like some other people. This is where we're transitioning into that negativity realm, right? When someone gets the opportunity that you want, it is tempting to make them the villain. We don't want to be the problem. So it must be that the game was rigged in some way, right? And we were just too classy to play that way. Well, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of tough love on this one because it's just not true. Not only is this you leaning into your learned helplessness, this is you being some primped and pampered poodle, just living on the mat, accessorizing the mat instead of getting off of it. Again, don't live here. What you're calling politics, some other people, myself included, might call networking, relationship building. It's likely going to be uncomfortable and strange to build relationships outside of where you've been. But imagine the opportunities you might get to see. You would get the chance to choose who you are in relationship with. It doesn't have to be gross. It doesn't have to be slimy. It doesn't have to be brown nosy. It just has to be something that makes you and the other person feel like you're elevating each other. So, are you going to choose to just dress up that painful place that you've been living in because it's easier to just sit in your discomfort, to lay down on your mat? Or are you going to jump off? Are you going to leave that mat behind and go find some better, more productive people to spend time with? Now, I'm not just here to beat you up though, right? I do want to help you replace those thoughts, help you replace those activities with something else that can do you more good. So, what can you do instead so that you do get promoted? First of all, you want to take personal accountability for what you want out of life, out of work, and what it's going to look like to get there. You aren't trapped on your mat like those poor little pups, right? You get to create your own reality and be the main character in your story. The truth is, people with problems love to talk about their problems. You will differentiate yourself and prepare for success in any role you want when you lead yourself. And what that really means is that you get to use each of the things you think is holding you back to make you exactly what and who you need to be in the job you want. One client was actually promoted to her dream job in just 6 weeks by leading herself. Could you imagine that? 6 weeks from a job that's frustrating and you're getting passed over to being in your dream job. It can happen just that fast. Let me tell you how. So, we are going to leverage our application rather than looking back at those designations, certifications, degrees that we don't have. We're going to leverage what we do have and boost it up. So, my clients always start by they always start in coaching by learning to lead themselves. We do not focus on leading other people until you know how to lead yourself. They learn to appreciate and leverage their skills and their strengths so that they can bring their best into every interaction. And that means they aren't worried about their degree because they're too busy sharing how their team exceeded their goals this quarter and are on track to break records. One client is up to her fourth promotion this spring, and it has nothing to do with her high school education. It has everything to do with her ability to follow and then improve upon a process so that her team beats the goal every single month. All right, our next one, instead of focusing on how you're too good where you are, we're going to diversify our skills to create your successor. Being amazing at your job is great. Leading someone else to be amazing at the same job is even better. Your boss may feel trapped into keeping you in the same role because they are worried they will fail without you, but that's no problem when you can bridge the gap. You can showcase that you have more skills than just the data entry that you've been doing when you train somebody else to do the work as well or even better than you could do it. A few years ago, I was working with a young man who was hoping to be promoted to a finance supervisor. The only problem was his boss relied on his completion of the financial reports. So he couldn't move into that supervisory role because he needed to complete those financial reports. Now, when I say that he relied on him, I mean that he held on like that kid in gym class who finally made it to the top of the rope but was terrified to get back off. He held on to him tight, even sabotaging a couple of opportunities for him. But this emerging leader, he could have resigned himself to just being stuck there until his boss retired. He could have said, he actively is working against me. There's nothing I could do. Or he could use this opportunity to prove his leadership skills. And thankfully, that's what he did. We worked together on his coaching up to his boss to influence some cross training, right? Because everyone needs a backup. Then we practiced his coaching conversations he'd have with one of his peers, and they were able to take on the work for the future. Not only did the team benefit from cross training, but he created a suitable replacement for himself. And he trained himself to do supervisory work, killing two, three, four birds all with one stone. That's what you want too, isn't it? All right, finally, we are going to talk about building connections. I have said it before and I will say it again. Networking is the number one thing holding you back. Stepping outside of your comfort zone is never easy. That's why they call it a comfort zone. It's uncomfortable to get out of it. Okay. But when you practice, when you take courage, you get more comfortable and more confident each and every time, every step. Now, I'll level with you. I am an introvert to my core. The only thing stronger than my desire to avoid making small talk, making new friends, was my stubbornness that something so silly as small talk was going to stand in the way of my career. I have seen the circles that I wanted to be in from outside of it. I've seen it my whole life. When I was in high school, I wanted to be with the athletes. When I was in college, I wanted to be with the researchers and with the leaders. When I got into my first jobs, I wanted to be in the rooms where decisions were made. Every single time I did it. Not because I was talented, not because I was smart, not because I was even invited to the rooms. I did it because I was too stubborn to let someone else tell me I couldn't. And what that means for you is that you can too. You don't have to have any special talent or qualification other than the determination to help yourself. You make it where you want to be with determination, with grit, and with a guide that can help you along the way. You can go through and put these things into action. I know you can do this because I did it. But I also know that it goes a heck of a lot faster with a guide. We spent some time today just transforming how you think about your career and what's holding you back and what you can do about it. You're capable of growing into that next role. I have absolutely no doubt. And if you want some help in learning how to take that next step and grow from individual contributor to leader, from manager or supervisor into a senior leadership role, I absolutely can help you do it. I've helped hundreds of other people, and I would be thrilled to help you as well. I want you to take a look at the links below and find out what might make the most sense for you. Do you need a quick free PDF that can help you just take one tiptoe forward? Or do you want to have a full conversation about how you can become the exceptional leader that I know you can be? All right, I look forward to hearing from you.